Suppose we have an application composed by a front end that we developed with jQuery, a gateway that we developed with the Spring Boot and standard Spring Boot, and the generic backend with the database. This one will be considered like external application, so we have no control over it. Now, we want to test it. How can we do that? Well, what are the possible problems that we can face with this application? We must set up the REST API mocks for every possible situation to test everything. We should write PACT verification to verify that the backend application still works with the data definition we support. We should prepare the QA environment to test. We should prepare the background service, the UI, whatever, everything. When the QA environment goes down, have to wait that the backend application goes up, and have to wait. We should wait for changes to be applied on the backend while we have already the specification for the gateway. We want to know what happens for real, what are the communication from the gateway to the backend. Maybe we receive the gateway, this application that we are testing, does something that we don't know. There's some code that we never touched before. We have to prepare the test for the CI environment. How much time we need to solve this situation? For this, we can use HAM, HTTP Answering Machine. All the other good names were taken. How can we do this? It's pretty easy. The first thing that we have to do is to download from GitHub the HAM source. See now, let's clone it. Git clone. Then we have to verify that the prerequisites are okay. So we check the Java version. It's okay. We need Java 11. And we check that a maven exists. Perfect. Now I can go on the directory and simply run make. There is even a bash script for that. We will not build the Docker images, but we will build all the Java packages. We will start the easier way. And now build. I have to wait some minutes. Now the compilation is finished. And we can start. We have the run.batch and run.sh. We will not run the Docker images. Well, there is a small note here. We have to modify the host file. Now we'll open the notepad as administrator. And we will open the host file. And add the 4 addresses that are needed for our application to work. They're all specified here. Of course, in a Unix environment or on Mac OS, you can sudo y or none or whatever editor you like and modify the host file. Now, this is ready. Let's start. Now all the applications are started. one by one. The gateway, backend, the front end, the main application, the ham, and everything now is up and running. What can we do now? We can go inside our application. Here is a ham main interface. Here is a sample application. Hopefully. Okay, here we have the sample application. Now we can try the sample application. We see that you can add an employee and set an appointment for him. We can change the state of the appointment, delete the appointment, and delete the employee. Now, the first thing we can do is to make a recording. Let's call it full recording. Okay. Now simply, okay, now to have a better experience, we will clear the cache. Okay. Then we start recording. So we'll see really everything. We'll add Mario Rossi. An appointment. We'll change the state of the appointment. Delete the appointment to clean up the environment and delete the user. Now we can stop recording. What's happened here? You can see all the calls made between the three applications, the front end, www, the gateway, and the backend. First thing we have to do now is to download this. Okay. And let's call it full recording. Now the first thing that we can do now is to simulate the application if we call the application with the UI. So we search for all the www call. We want to enable only the gateway call. Okay, we delete the www. We delete the backend stuff. Now here we are. Only the gateway calls. Notice the user will be the user number 3. Now, and start replaying. Now we follow the same path we did before. Oh, and you will now see that here we have the front end, so it's interesting. Here we have the ham, that is not interesting. Here we have the backend, is not interesting now. Here we have the gateway. If you can see here, all the requests are logged. We notice that nothing will be called. So we add time Rossi, save changes. We will add meeting, save changes. Change the state, delete the meeting, and delete the employee. That's it. No call had been made, no real call had been made. Now stop replying. Now, what can we do? We can do some null infrastructure test. That means we will run a test that will simulate the backend and will simulate the calls made by the front end to the gateway. Let's see how it works. First, we delete the previous recording. We upload the clean, complete recording. So we can remove all the www stuff. Then the gateway is the starting point. This is a gateway. We select everything, and we set the gateway as the stimulator. That means it will be called, like with a mic, during our test, and save everything. Then we will call backend, and this will be stimulated. Now, one thing that we can do is to check inside the gateway responses that all the responses that we receive are exactly the one we thought. So, how we can do that? It's pretty simple. And we can do that in bulk. So, we select all the gateway. Then, we can modify for all the requests. We can add a pre and a post script. That means before calling the gateway, we can do something. And after calling the gateway, we can verify the request and the response. Here we have this simple JavaScript. Yes, it's a JavaScript. It works with JavaScript. If the expected response, this is a standard parameter, response text, is different from the response received, throw an error. Save everything and go back to the script. Now, you can check that all the gateway calls contains this script. Let's see here. Everyone. Now what we can do? Now we can switch off the front end, the back end, and leave only the gateway and ham. Now we simply start a null infrastructure test. You see here that all the call has been made to the backend. And now we can verify the results. We can edit here. We see the name of the recording, the date, if it was successful. And we see all the steps that had been executed, the type, and no error, the duration of the execution, and so on. Now, let's see this result. We can go back to the scripts and download this test. And we will call it not fall, but null success. What can we do to check that everything works for real? For example, during this post, the employee is created. So let's edit this request response data, because we can edit all the data from the request and the response. So we can method, the protocol, eventually the port. We can add the query parameters, post parameters, modify the headers, and this is the thing that we are using now, edit the response data. You see now, the response data says ID number 3. Let's say that is use ID number 99. Let's go back to the recording. Let's start a null test. Now we can go and check the results. You see successful? No. And we can see error calling index 11. Where we changed the, I don't know, we'll check. Error. Let's go to the step 11. 11, yes, is the answer that has been returned by the gateway. So yes, it works. Now another kind of test we can do is the PACT test. Let's remove our recording. Let's upload. Now we will remove all the www stuff. We want simply call the backend number of times and verify that the result is compatible with our application. We set everything as PACT. Now, what can we do? First thing that we can do is to add the verifier. Automatically, we can add JavaScript to verify that the content of the result is matching with the content we expect. This diffinfer is able to inspect a template, infer a schema, and validate against a real message. We apply this to all the responses and save. Now we have to restart everything because now we need to start only. No, we need to start only ham and the backend. So the gateway can be stopped right away. The backends can be started. The front end is useless. And the ham should be started. Okay. Now let's see. We got everything in place. Oh, we have everything ready. Let's start the PACT test. PACT test. Well, let's see what happened here. Oh, we have a bunch of errors. Interesting. Why this? This because all this test is based on data that is static. Like when I insert the employee, this is the ID number 3. But this ID will change if I run several times the application. So I need to add parameters to all this thing. Let's start with the path. Or better, let's start with setting the parameter. I will add a script here. First, I have to employee equal some parse response text. Then I get the employee ID, that is ID. And then I need to store this value inside a place. We have a cache here inside ham. Cache that we can set. One of the other standard parameters is the run ID. It is the number of the run. That is the one that it will be used inside even the test results. And this is needed to allow some kind of isolation between the runs. So I add a key. It will be always lowercase with the value. Save. Now I can modify the employee IDs. This is a pretty boring thing. For example, here I got employee number 3. Let's do the first one. I simply set ID here. I save, and then I can move within the requests and modify every one of them. Okay, now I finish it. Okay, let's go back here and we check that employee ID is always set the right way. Now I have to change the appointment ID. This will be the post made to set the appointment. Now I simply need to take the employee post script and add something similar inside the creation of the appointment. Let's see what the payload is. Edit response data. So we have the ID and the employee ID. Okay. That's nice. Let's go back to the line. Let's edit directly the JavaScript from the request response editing. And we add here response get response test, appointment, appointment ID, appointment ID, appointment ID. That's it. Save it. Now I will redo the changes on all the places like I did before. I will do this quickly. So let's edit JS, and as before, appointment ID, and so on. Now I changed all the addresses, but there is something more that I have to do now. That means I have to change the requests to match this. So, for example, the creation, the request data have to change. We have the employee ID, and this will be changed to emp ID. Then post, even here, change the request data. We got the appointment ID and the employee ID. Copy this. Now maybe I change all of them. This one is a 30. Ready made. 30 done. 37. Okay. Go back to 37. Delete, get delete. Okay, perfect. Okay, now I can run my test. But before everything, I have to save my test. That will be PACT. Now, let's see what's happening inside the backend. Other request. Start PACT. Did something. Let's check the test results. Yeah, the first PACT test we did was has had some problem. Let's see what problem. There was something that was missing inside the message. Okay. Now it's working. This is the last one. Everything was perfect. Now let's remove all the old stuff. And let's see what happens if we don't make the delete and let's see, a change of state. So remove the delete and the change of state of the appointment. Let's save it and start the PACT test. Now let's go. We can go on the sample application, or better, on the PA. API one employees and see that we had the two Mario Rossi. Oh, we can run it again. We've got three Mario Rossi. And the appointments, we got a draft appointment that is nearly the last date before the confirmation. That's working. And so we demonstrated even that the execution was really existing. Now some little more information on the product. This product has a full documentation. You can see here. It can work on Docker. It can work on your machine. Got pretty nice configuration. You can build custom plugins. You can do several special operation, from simulating real servers to simulating APIs on the fly with the recording, or simulating a DB, or simulating an DNS server, or generate a hijack HTTPS requests. We got even a nice event queue just to let the modules communicate without too much hassles. Well, guys, if you need some more information, here is what you could do. Contact me, and here it is. Thanks everybody. Now, question time.